Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Mio on MMA podcast. This is the recap of UFC 286, and doing something new today. So we are still on Saturday. The fight card wrapped up about 2 hours ago. Went for a walk afterwards, stretched the legs out, get a little time to reflect, and now it's time to do the recap. And normally I wait till the next day. Because normally the card ends, and it's, if not bedtime, it's time to wind down for bed. Now, this is the rare exception because it's London. This probably will not be uploaded until, or made public, I should say, because it's going to be uploaded tonight, but probably will not be published until Sunday. So you're going to probably get it at more or less the usual time, maybe a little bit earlier, because I do have to get up early tomorrow and tend to some things of a medical nature. But, so we're getting a little bit more immediate view here. And, the usual stuff here. If you want to give me a like, give me a follow, give me a subscription, whatever the case may be on whatever platform you're handling on, or you want to introduce a friend to the podcast, please feel free to. Helps out a ton. And check out the links down below, the link tree and the Discord. The Discord in particular, I think will be interesting. Now, why I think it'll be interesting is that I run a mixed martial arts simulator, a piece of software that simulates MMA fights and a career that you can indulge on and have fun with. And if you're into like RPGs, a little bit nerdy, obviously in MMA, these are all things that I think you will enjoy. Seeing the volume being a little bit low, hopefully that's not a problem, but maybe. All right, let's talk about the fight card. Obviously, we, as per usual, start at the main event. Leon Edwards versus Kamaru Usman, number 3. Leon Edwards retaining his title. I have no problem with that. I could have seen this fight scored a draw. I could have seen an Usman win. But very, very unlikely. It would have required almost every benefit of a doubt, every sort of close thing going his way to get the win. So I scored it a draw personally. Let me get my scorecard out here. I gave Edwards the first round. I gave Usman the second round. I scored the third round a draw 9-9 because of the point deduction. I scored the fourth round for Usman and the fifth round for Edwards. Now the fourth round incredibly close, fifth round incredibly close. So again, I have no problem with this going to Edwards. The one problem I do have is I'm looking at the scorecards here. And there is one round that kind of sticks in my craw here. So to be clear, every judge scored this fight with at least one round going to Usman. Ben Cartledge gave it the fourth round. Chris Lee gave it the third round. David Letherby gave it the second and the third round. Letherby's is the card that I think I can get behind the most. It does not agree with mine. I scored the third round draw. But here's the thing. I think that if you believe Usman won a round here, and it seems like everyone did, it should be the second round. Why do I say that? Okay, the second round is the only round that Usman landed more strikes, significantly, and total, than Edwards. He also outlanded him in the fifth round, but a lot of it was insignificant by the UFC stat logic, whatever. And I'm not saying that you landed more strikes, that's the end. It is also the only round where he had any moment of momentum dominance. What I mean by that is when he got the takedown, he got his first takedown of the fight in the second round. 1 for 1. 45 seconds of top control. That's nothing. That's absolutely nothing. But when Edwards did get back up, he started to uncork a bunch of dirty boxing clinch punches to him. And it was kind of his biggest moment of the fight. It was the one moment of the fight where Usman took over, even if it was just for 45 seconds. And did damage. Did notable damage. I think that was his best round. This is a hierarchical argument, essentially. If you scored all 5 of these rounds for Edwards, I actually don't have a particular problem. I think there's an argument for all of them to go to Edwards, including the second. But the second was Usman's best round. And the fact that 2 judges did not give it to him, but gave other rounds to him, does stick in my brain as a problem. All right, so we've talked about the scoring. Let's talk about the fight itself. This was a masterful performance by Leon Edwards, in my opinion. Now, there are 2 flaws, and I will detail them. But he really went heavy on the double wrist control on takedowns. He would double up Usman's far wrist when Usman would go for the back leg. He would completely stifle him with that move. He utilized a very good range striking game, lots of kicks, worked the leg. I don't know why more people don't punish Usman's legs. We know his knees are terrible. You should do that. And he worked a lot of body kicks. Utilized the threat of the high kick, a strike that he did not really even throw, but of course ended the second fight with it, to set up a ton of offense and make things happen. I just realized my phone is not muted. Let me quickly fix that. Okay. Anyways, a superb performance by him with 2 exceptions. Number 1 was the fouls, because we had a lot. We had a lot of fouls here from Leon Edwards. A ton. We had groin strikes. We had the cage grab that eventually did get him a point deducted. We had the glove grab inside of the gloves of Usman. The one that I really took issue with was when he got the point deducted for a double cage grab. I want to make this clear. A double cage grab. Because Usman was going for a takedown in the 3rd round. Edwards grabbed the cage to prevent the takedown from being fully completed, and then grabbed it again to stand up. That to me is just poor. And then protested afterwards. He's like, "Oh, you shouldn't take a point." I don't know what was said. We didn't get it mic'd up enough, but arguing that the point should be deducted, arguing that he grabbed the cage. I guess I don't know why, because if we're being entirely honest, that was one of the more blatant fouls on the night. I was happy a point got taken. So it was an incredibly good technical performance. But if you're looking to win over fans, and maybe it'll work, honestly. I've long said this. I'm not entirely sure that I can really comment on what MMA fans like, because to be honest, we like some weird, dumb crap people, and we send at best conflicting vibes on the matter. So I don't know, maybe it does, but for me, my fandom of Leon Edwards did take a couple steps down because of that. The other thing is that he still backs himself into the cage, both legs, both heels hitting the cage, and that sets up takedowns. Granted, he did an amazing job not letting takedowns happen there. An absolutely amazing job. And Usman did not punish him nearly as much as he did in the second fight or the first fight for this. But that habit is still very much there. And the prototype, the key to victory against him remains the same. Now, do I think that means that he's going to lose this next fight? I don't know. It's going to depend on who that's against. Keep in mind, Usman is still... Well, no, I guess this brings up the point of what does this win mean for Edwards? Does it mean that he's turned a corner? He's become something better? He's on his way up to being a legitimate long-term champion who isn't just a flash in the pan, who isn't just a big comeback victory and then a victory over Usman again. He's going to be a guy who puts up a couple title defenses or whatever. It's possible, but it is also possible that this is just kind of the end of Kamaru Usman. Because I've been saying this for a while, and I'm not alone on it. I'm not trying to claim this as a hot take, a unique take, because it's not. But knowing that Usman's knees are, shot, he's also 35 years old. He now has hand troubles. Is it possible that this is just kind of the end of the road for Usman? Maybe. But I still did like the technical adaptations to Edwards' game. I just think that the door to beating him remains rather large for a UFC champion. And we know that when you are a UFC champion, you are, of course, the hunted party. You are the guy that everybody, when they're not preparing for a specific opponent, is going to be looking at ways to beat you, similar to Alexa Grasso's build up to beating Valentina Shevchenko, where Grasso was, perfectly said it. I've been preparing for this fight for a long, long time. Basically, every moment I'm not preparing for a specific opponent, I'm preparing for Valentina Shevchenko. Leon Edwards is that guy for the welterweight division. And there is a very large problem to his game that I could see being exploited. He'll next fight Colby Covington, I believe is the plan. I appreciate that he completely no-sell Colby Covington, because Covington should not be on a 2-2 run. And I know the 2 losses are to Usman. I get it. But the wins are over George Masvidal and over Tyron Woodley. And both of those, and even the Robbie Lawler win before that, and the Rafael Dos Anjos win before that, and the Demian Maia win before that, are all aging super poorly. He has completely avoided the up-and-comers of his generation and the next generation. So I don't want him to get a title shot. He probably will. And it's kind of weird because I've never been able to figure out what the UFC thinks of Covington in their hierarchy, because they are incredibly willing to feud with him, which indicates they do not see him as a star. But they will periodically use him as a star. And it's very weird to figure out where exactly in the internal hierarchy he is. And this is not disrespect to Colby Covington in the cage product. Colby Covington is chaos, coming forward, pressure, wrestling, striking, thrown into one. It's incredibly hard to deal with. There's a reason he has very, very few losses. There's a reason that essentially Kamaru Usman is the only guy to have solved the problem. He also has a loss to Warley Alves, but that was very, very early in his career. And very, very sudden, I might add. And he's a tough challenge for Edwards. It's just that I don't like that he keeps getting to hop the line repetitively. I will say it's better than Chimaev getting a title shot off of missing weight as badly as he did. But I feel for Shavkat Rakhmonov even. I feel for Gilbert Burns. I feel for Bilal Muhammad, who all probably should have been ahead of him in the line. But anyways, let's go on to the co-main event. Let's talk about what Usman does next. It's a tough one to see what Usman does next. You could do sort of a past your prime Legends fight with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. That's on the cards. You could do a fight with Shavkat Rakhmonov. You could do a fight with Bilal Muhammad, who is surprisingly not booked right now. Like, I would say those are probably your three pathways. But at the same time, I could see him just being done, because it's hard to see him getting back to a title shot, given that it does seem like he's very much degraded from where he once was. And I said that before this fight. Like, it's not this is not a new realization. I think he's been on the downslide for a little bit. Rafael Fiziev versus Justin Gaethje. I had Fiziev winning the first round and Gaethje winning the second and the third round. Let's have a look at the stats of this fight real quick. It's always interesting to look at the stats after you've scored a fight live. Do they kind of line up? Let's see here. Fiziev outlanded him in the first 2 rounds. Gaethje outlanded him in the third. Makes sense. I thought that Gaethje was finding his stride very much per. I have to address the red herring here. It really kind of went downhill for Fiziev after a second round eye poke. I know that was not the eye that eventually did get blown up, because Gaethje did open up a major cut and swelling around the other eye of Fiziev. But, there is always that question of, like, from the point onwards of the eye poke, Fiziev was having a hard time finding his range in a way that in the first half of the fight, the first round and the first half of the second round, he was not having that problem. It started out largely like what I thought it was. We saw Gaethje doing a little bit of overthrowing, getting countered a little bit, getting some good stuff down. Don't get me wrong. Like, his first leg kick sent Fiziev in a full 360 spin. Very, very nice. And, doing some good things. He clubbed him a couple times. Like, at no point was Gaethje not in this fight. Gaethje at no point failing to do anything. But like the little inefficiencies in his game, the overthrows, the kind of wide openness was allowing Fiziev to pump in some good counters and establish a tone with his combinations. Like I said, the eye poke happens, and then just slowly Fiziev stops being able to take advantage of those openings. He starts missing a little bit. He starts coming up short. He actually had a couple of overthrows himself, which we don't usually see. Gaethje continued to more or less do the same things, just, throwing a lot of volume, overthrowing periodically, leaving openings there, getting stung with right hands by Fiziev on quite a few occasions, but just turning up the heat and getting the job done. I want to say he landed more strikes in each round. I'm correct on that. It was 27, 29, and then 54. So there you go. Kept, pace up, pace up, pace up, pace up. Even got a takedown on the third round, although it was like for 5 seconds. It was nothing, is what I'm saying. And let's have a look at what the judges thought, because this one ended up being this one was the majority decision. So Mark Collette had my scorecard, Fiziev round 1, Gaethje round 2 and 3. Paul Sutherland gave Fiziev the first 2 rounds. I don't have a problem with that. And then scored it a 10-8 third round for Gaethje, which I think is a bit much. I think I need to see a little bit more than outlanding an opponent by apparently 16 strikes, getting 1 takedown, no knockdowns, to warrant a 10-8. I don't think that's a 10-8. Now, here's the thing. If this becomes the standard 10-8, like the first 2 rounds here are 10-9s, because they're pretty close. They're like single-digit strike differential. No one particularly went down. No massive, damage was done. And the third round becomes a 10-8. I'm fine with that, but that has not been how we've scored these fights. I want consistency. Like, I would like if Paul Sutherland could go before the athletic commission or whoever decides the rules in this regard and justify why that's a 10-8 round and succeed, because I want to see that be a 10-8 round. I want there to be differential, because Gaethje won the third round by a larger margin than, in my opinion, he won the second round, and that Fiziev won the first round. So I'm okay with that being a 10-8. I just want that to be consistent. Now, I do think Clemens Werner's card is the garbage one. He scored Gaethje 1 and 3. Fiziev's best round was the first round. It was the round where he had the most counters landing. He had the most kicks landing. He was very on range and landed more. I'm not saying that has to be a Fiziev round. If you're sitting here listening to the sound of my voice and going, I scored all 3 rounds for Gaethje, we disagree, but you have an internal logic that can be pointed to. I don't know what Clemens Werner's logic for giving Fiziev the second round, but not the first round, really honestly could be. That's my problem. The second round is, to me, like the swing round. It's the one that can go either way. I think Fiziev won the first. I think Gaethje won the third. Gaethje obviously won the third. But I don't know. It's a little bit weird. So like 2 judges' scorecards were a little bit weird here. What do we do after this? I mean, there is the chance that we end up with a title shot for Gaethje. He was, in the lead up to this fight, he was talking about how, he, because of his exciting style, is always close to a title shot. He ain't wrong. This is a guy that is currently on a 1-fight winning streak. He's 3-2 in his last 5. And I wouldn't really complain about a title shot against Islam Makhachev. I would hope, and I'm going to say that I think the winner of Benny Dariush versus Charles Oliveira, especially if it's Dariush, should get that title shot. Because I want to see Dariush get that title shot. Dariush deserves that title shot over Gaethje. And you could do Gaethje versus Poirier number 2. That would be fine. I'd be down. Be so down. If you don't want to do that, if Poirier's not interested in that, because Poirier's in a weird spot right now, you could do, I guess, Arman Tsarukyan. Like, Mateusz Gamrot would be like the next guy up in terms of rankings. But I'm not super interested in that fight, and I did think Jalen Turner beat Gamrot. So, I don't know. That's a hard one to justify, but it could be done. But like Poirier-Gaethje would be my pick if I could make something happen here. Gunnar Nelson made fairly short work of Brian Barberena once they hit the ground. On the feet, things were okay. Like Barberena was throwing some nice low kicks and putting a little bit of work in there, but Gunnar was like slowly pushing him to the cage, slowly pressuring him, slow cooking that to perfection. Got the clinch, took him down. Notice that there was a massive calf bruise on Gunnar Nelson when it hit the ground admittedly, and then landed some good elbows. Barberena active off his back, always is, but that opens up the door for the mount position with 25 seconds to go. And then the beautiful, picturesque armbar tap out win for Gunnar Nelson. Spectacular. You know what? It answered a lot of questions for me because, like, the problem heading into this fight for me, and I picked Gunnar Nelson, but, like, the problem for me was just the lack of activity from Nelson. The fact that the man had fought once in 2022, none in 2021, none in 2020. You have to go back to 2019, where he lost 2 fights in a row to Gilbert Burns and Leon Edwards. Don't get me wrong, those are hella fighters, and that ages very, very well. One of them is the champion. One of them is a top contender for that belt. But I worries. Like, he's 34 now. He's getting old. He's a year younger than Usman, who I'm talking about being very, very faded. I still picked him to win this fight. It was good to see it. I still have some questions, but he looked very good. It looked like everything that made Gunnar Nelson a cult classic, essentially, is still there and still working. This was supposed to be him versus Daniel D. Rod Rodriguez. You could rebook that. I wouldn't have a problem with that. But, like, I don't know. Am I the only one that is, like, a little bit curious about him versus RDA, Rafael Dos Anjos? Just a little bit. Like, they both just, like, bossed around Barberena, for example. That could be a fun fight. That'd be a deal. Did they ever fight? Am I missing that he's already fought Dos Anjos? He's fought Demian Maia. That might be what's giving me the slight hesitation. But, like, no, I like that fight. And Barberena, I don't really have a specific opponent in mind for Barberena. He's a good action fighter. He's fun. They've been using him as a kind of, like, soft but test for, like, the old guys in the division. Could do something else like that. Has he ever fought Tim Means? I'm just looking at Tapology. They're 36th and 37th on the welterweight rankings. They're both on 2-fight losing skids. And that would make a ton of sense. That would be a dope fight. And it looks like they have not fought each other. So I'm looking at that as a probably book it option, really. Yeah. Give me Tim Means versus Brian Barberena. 2 old guys who deserve a little bit of love. Let's go there. So sliding on down the card, we go to, by the way, Gunnar Nelson was my last win on the card. Jennifer Maia, who went out there and did her thing against Casey O'Neill. I was worried about this fight because I picked O'Neill. I was like, O'Neill's the great prospect. She's coming up in the world. Let's see what she can do. She managed to squeak the 3rd round on 2 cards. I don't even know if I agree with that because I'm pretty sure she got outlanded heavily in all 3 rounds. Let's have a look. She landed 137 strikes around. Okay, they were even in the 3rd round, I guess. Apparently. According to UFC stats, they were even. Maia was just a step ahead. I don't have a ton to say about this fight. I literally have one real note for this fight, which was I like what I will read it word for word. I like what Maia's doing here. She's throwing a lot of volume. She looks very quick. She's mixing in the occasional takedown. O'Neill seems afraid to try to take her down for fear of getting stuck in the clinch. And then I just put like the same as for like everything else. It was kind of the same fight throughout. Every minute was largely the same. Maia having the slightly better volume, the slightly better quality, hitting a little bit harder, messing O'Neill's face up a little bit. O'Neill was my fear here was that without a takedown game to complement her volume striking, without her ability to be the female Merab Dvalishvili, Colby Covington sort of deal, because she's fighting that same kind of volume-based pace meta, although admittedly with a more lethal ground game, I think. That without that ground game, the holes in her striking game were going to show up a lot bigger. And I kind of wish I picked Maya. I really do. Because a part of my brain was going, pick Maya, pick the underdog, go with it, rock it. And I didn't do it. I got to take that L on Casey O'Neill. She's still a bright prospect. She's quite young. I'm not recalling her age off the top of my head, of course, because I am a bit of a dumbass in that regard. I don't remember fighters' ages all that well. Yeah, she's 25 years old. Plenty of time. Don't worry about it. But yeah, this was a setback. I don't really know what you do with Jennifer Maia because she's still kind of got to be a title contender, but like, she's got 2 losses to Caitlin Chikagian and she got a title shot, and it was the first chink in the armor for Valentina Shevchenko. I don't know. I don't know. I really don't. She's lost to Manon Fiorot as well. So like, there's not much to do with her. There's legitimately nothing that really makes sense. Like, you'd have to go down to like Amanda Hibosh to find her someone she hasn't fought. And that feels too far down after this win. You could go with Lauren Murphy, but I don't think that there's anything in the Lauren Murphy like tank after the Jessica Andrade fight. Honestly, I don't know what to do with her. And for Casey O'Neill, it depends on how far you want to go down. Because you could go down to like Tracy Cortez. Maybe. You could go to, or you could even go down to Meatball Molly McCann and to like JoJo Wood, who we're going to talk about later as options. You could go down to Marina. Actually, you know what? Marina Moroz at her, the other recent victim of Maya, actually does feel like kind of a weirdly interesting fight. I don't think it's one that sells at all, but hey, leave me your thoughts. I think that's not bad. Marvin Vettori versus Roman Dolidze. This was also a pretty defined fight, I guess I should say. Let's have a look at the stats here, because this is another one that like Vettori is very, very reliant on volume. And yeah, he did outland him in all 3 rounds. The reason he is incredibly reliant on volume is the fact that he really didn't hurt him. Dolidze unquestionably landed the harder strikes. What was interesting to see, the very few kicks thrown by Dolidze. Dolidze is usually a pretty big kicker. Like, he likes to kick the legs, likes to kick the body. And he only uncorked about 23 shots to the body and legs combined. And some of those body shots are also punches. So he really did not kick much. He kind of really headhunted, whereas Vettori piled on leg kick. And maybe it was a compromisation of his lead leg, mayhaps. But the most damage done in the fight was Dolidze headbutting him, let's be honest. The only round I scored for Dolidze was the 3rd round. But these are 3 incredibly close rounds that I don't really have much of an issue going either way. The reason I gave him the 3rd round is I thought that was just his best round. It wasn't necessarily the one with the closest volume or whatever, but it was the one where he really did finally step up and start pressuring Vettori and getting some damage done. And it was the one where I also noticed he really wasn't throwing kicks. And the commentary started talking about the damage to his leg, which would be fine. The bad moment for the commentary in this fight was there was a single leg takedown from Dolidze that absolutely did not go anywhere. And DC is like, I love it. That's a perfect way of doing it to change up things and whatever. It's like, it had 0 impact on the fight. Because it's not like, he was talking about like obviously establishing the threat of the takedown and whatever. Sure, you can do that, but I don't think Vettori fights any differently when you're threatening a takedown, honestly. Like, Vettori is a guy who is a little bit too meathead for that, to be honest. Like, he's just going to keep coming forward and doing the pressure thing. The problem here essentially was tactical thinking. It's a fight that Dolidze could have easily won. And if he won on your card, I have no objection. Because I think he landed the best strikes of the fight. Pretty much in all 3 rounds. But he would see things that would work. Like in the first round, towards the end of it, he was really pressuring Vettori and putting the screws to him, forcing him to the cage, and even stumbling him. And his decision making from that point onwards was to not really do that. Was to let Vettori get back to chopping his legs and pressuring him. And that was kind of my thing here, is I trusted Vettori to fight like Vettori regardless of what Dolidze did. And he did that. And Dolidze, I don't trust his decision making one iota. What was the judges' scoring on this one? Dolidze, Vettori. We're going to be looking at a lot of cards today because it was a bit weird. So Ben Cartledge gave the first round to Dolidze. I actually don't have a problem with that. He finished that round quite strong. And David Letherby had the same card. And Paul Sutherland gave all three to Vettori. I don't really have a problem with any of those. It's kind of weird because I gave the third round to Dolidze, not the first round, but I get it. I do get it. That there was a very strong ending to the first round for Dolidze. I think that's fine. Now the question becomes, what do you do with these guys? Because the problem with Vettori is that he's a guy who trains with Sean Strickland, so there's no matchup there, even though it would be kind of interesting. Has lost twice to Adesanya, I do believe. Has lost to Whitaker as well. Has he lost twice to Adesanya? Am I misremembering that? Yeah, he has lost twice. Twice to Israel Adesanya. It's just the first one was controversial is all. And there's no interest in seeing him fight that. He probably won't fight his teammate, Sean Strickland. There's no interest in seeing him fight Robert Whitaker again. I guess you could do Jared Cannonier. I guess. And for Dolidze, I would like to see what he learns off this, but I get the distinct feeling that the answer is nothing. I get the distinct feeling that Dolidze is the fighter he is, and nothing is really ever going to change that. I was also calling for the winner of this to fight Dricus du Plessis. I'm fine with that. Du Plessis versus Vettori. There you go. That's another option. And for Dolidze, like I said, you could do. I guess you could still actually do Du Plessis in like a super, super sloppy fight. Aside from that, you're looking at like the winner of Chris Curtis, Kelvin Gastelum, or Nasruddin Imavov. And those feel very unsexy. Brendan Allen is would be an option. Okay. I'm going to say that. I'm going to say Brendan Allen versus Dolidze. Give me Vettori versus Du Plessis. That's getting my pulse racing a little bit more than Vettori versus Jared Cannonier. Further on down, we had Jack Shore. I did not love Shore's performance here. He got a second round rear naked choke over Makwan and Mirkani. It was your standard Mirkani fight. Mirkani looking for the takedown early, starting very fast, fading, doing his thing. There's not much to say. This went according to plan. I just didn't like that Shore was so willing to clinch and grapple with Mirkani because I think he could have stayed away and showed off his striking and done his thing. And the big problem is okay, he won this fight. But I really do think that if you look at his bantamweight run, a lot of his problems were when he went in and wrestled with people who were bigger and who were stronger than him, more athletic than him, and he would run into problems. This journey up to 145 means he is going to be facing bigger guys. It's kind of like it's the opposite of like Nathaniel Wood going up at weight class, where it's like Nathaniel Wood is going to emphasize his like speed and evasiveness and technical outside striking. And Shore is the same guy. He is the guy who's going to clinch very, very willingly with featherweights. It's gonna burn him. It didn't burn him this time, but it will at some point burn him. And that does have me very, very worried. And that's kind of all I have to say about the fight. As for matchmaking, I don't know where Jack Shore is on the rankings, to be honest, because this is his first win. For Makwan Murakami, he has now lost 5 of his last 6 over the last 3 years. I wouldn't be surprised if he got cut. If you want to do something with him, loser of Daniel Pineda, Tucker Lutz, maybe? Tucker Lutz is a weird one. He just seems to like never really get sustained bookings. For sure, I got a lot of ideas. You could do David Onama. You could do Ricardo Ramos. You could do, although Ramos did have that weird weight miss. You could do Pat Sabatini. You could do Josh Kulabau. Hey, Josh Kulabau. That's a fun fight. Let's go with that one. Josh Kulabau, Jack Shore. Make that happen. So, moving on down. Chris Duncan, Omar Morales. This was kind of frustrating for me because Duncan kind of wall installed his way to a victory here. And it's not just that that's not what I want to see. I don't want to see that. I really don't want to see that. But I also fully believe that Duncan doesn't have anywhere near the physical ability or technical savvy to do this again. Like, Duncan is a guy who I think has to thrive in chaos and action and volume. And the fact that this was his decision in the fight was a bit of a problem. I scored all 3 rounds for Duncan, so I don't have a problem with him winning, obviously. But I think this fight was about Morales being too passive, not turning up the wick, and Duncan being very, very willing to be boring, and Morales being unable to break the clinch. I can't remember who it was I was talking about. I was talking about someone very, very similar to this on the last card. Hang on. Let me pull up that Peter Yan card, because there was someone I was talking about being unable to break the clinch in my last recap. Said Nurmagomedov. This reminded me of that fight with Jonathan Martinez, where, although Martinez was way more exciting doing it, where like it was defined by the fact that Said could not break back to space, and that was Omar Morales in this fight. It's like, and it's just so annoying because Morales is super strong, big, physical, and Duncan isn't. Like, it shouldn't work. And I do hope Duncan is looking at this more as a loss than he is looking at it as a plus. What were the judges' thoughts on this one? Because it's hard. I don't know. It's hard. Paul Sutherland scored all 3 rounds for Morales. The weird thing is you could go 30-27 either way on this fight, and I don't really care. It looks like the second and third rounds both went to Duncan on the other 2 scorecards. What were the stats? Duncan outlanded him 53-47 overall. First round was not bad, 26-24 in Morales' favor, but yeah, it was 14-7 and 15-14 after that. I don't know. This fight just had all kinds of bad feels to it. And that's why I don't overly even really know what I want to do with these 2 guys at lightweight, because Morales is in a weird spot where, like, I don't know. Also, my understanding is Morales left Killcliff FC for the Goat Shed for this fight. That's a bad idea. I don't think the Goat Shed's a terrible gym or anything, but you should not be leaving Killcliff FC for honestly anywhere at the age of 37. You should not be leaving that gym, period. And you especially should not be leaving it for Goat Shed. That's a bad move. That's a really, really bad move. Who do I want to see Chris Duncan fight? The winner of Trey Ogden versus Manuel Torres, maybe? That could make sense. Or Nazim Sadikov, maybe. I don't know. I want to like Duncan. I didn't like this performance, and I have serious doubts about what he can do. And I don't know what you do with Morales. He might just be done. Ashma left no doubts in his fight with Sam Patterson. He caught his kick, hit him with the right overhand, dropped him to the ground and pound, finished the job. I was talking with Devoid, one of my watch buddy partners, mates. I don't know, attendees. There you go. We watch on TeamSpeak. We watch the fights, and he was asking because coming into this fight, I was poo-pooing it. I was saying I don't really think either of these guys have a lot to offer in the UFC. Patterson's a tall dude, sure, but I think there's gigantic holes in his game. He's incredibly narrow. Ashmu's probably is more of a featherweight. I like his power. His game is otherwise kind of just meat and potatoes. It's fine. It's fine, but I don't think he's really going anywhere. And I think he's fighting in the wrong weight class. And he asked me, did this fight change my mind on that? It really didn't. I don't really know what I could read into a kick catch overhand right GMP finish. Honestly, like I already knew Ashmoose does hit very hard. Like that's the best part of his game is the fact that he hits hard. But I don't know. I don't really know. This fight was kind of comical just on a physical level. And I don't really know what you do with either of them because I don't think they're all that good. Mohamed Mokaev versus Jafal Filo. This was the most controversial fight, I guess, coming out of it. Not on a decision level because Mokaev got the win by rear naked choke in the third round. So there's no scoring to talk about. But I still don't know if this is a great... Like, Mokaev beat a guy who was willing to pull guillotines on him and take bottom position. And in the first round, that was very, very obvious. There wasn't really much going on. There was some you go, I go striking, as I call it, where like they're just taking turns. Mokaev gets the takedown. Filo really gives it up by going for the guillotine, like I said. Mokaev passes the guard, diffuses the choke, scrambles to take back control. Filo gets him off of his back, but ends up, getting Dagestani handcuffed and controlled and whatever. And apparently, about 57 seconds left in round one, there was a tap by Mokaev that people are saying. I did not see it live. And I would have to go back and watch it again to really have an opinion on this. He wasn't locked in anything. And the thing is that we see phantom tap. We have seen phantom taps. So the fact that Filo, and the weird thing is like Filo in the second round gets a hell of a knee bar. Oh my Lord, what a knee bar. And cranks on that thing. And Mokaev does not tap. So I don't know. I'm willing to overlook it. Mokaev, for the record, was fighting with a bad shoulder. So maybe that was something to do with it. Second round was highlighted by, like I said, that guillotine or that knee bar. That was fantastic. Mokaev survived, finished on top, but I gave the round to Fio. And then in the third round, Fio gets him down, or Mokaev gets him down. Oh, pardon me. Fio, the knee bar was in the third round. I keep forgetting this. It was in the third round that he did. So what was in the second round? Again, I'm lost in my own notes here. Fio was knocking Mokaev backwards when he landed in the second round. It was he was overloading his punches and actually getting some damage done. And Mokaev, was working for a single leg and so on. And Fio was able to defend it a little bit, but with about 50 seconds to go, Mokaev did get it down. Fio was pretty active from bottom though, so that's why I gave him the round. And then the third round was highlighted by the knee bar, the escape, Mokaev getting on his back, getting the rear naked choke. It was a bit of a weak tap for Fio because it wasn't really on the chin. It was on the chin. It was a pain. It was a crank as opposed to a choke. And that's always a little bit disappointing. But I don't know. I think he performed reasonably well. Mokaev, I'm not going to bother matchmaking for. That knee looks effed. Dude was hobbling on that leg after the fight. And and I believe he also has to have shoulder surgery. So yeah, he'll be out for a while. And I don't really know what you do with Fio. Keep him because your flyweight division is tiny. And I don't mean that as a pun on their size. I mean that on the literal fighter composition. Keep them round and run these flyweights from Dana White Contender Series against each other round and round they go, and figure out which ones of them are UFC caliber to keep them around and build that division up. Because of course they tried to kill it twice, and that has left us with this kind of weird, not great deal. I will say this is another fight that, like, to me is like, and I said this to someone on Discord. The issue with Mokaev is not that I think he's bad, because I think he's quite good. I think he has a very functional style that needs to adapt and whatever to be like elite, and I think he's a good enough athlete. But it's like the Ian Gary thing. It's like, Ian Gary would be the best comparison. Coming in and like, I'm going to be the youngest champion, whatever. And then when you fight Malcolm Gordon, by the way, Malcolm Gordon did not look great. We're going to talk about him later. You end up with, like, I don't know, outside of the Cody Durden fight, nothing really impressive. And this one, even this one's overshadowed by a possible tap out. Lerone Murphy versus Gabriel Santos. I did score this for Santos, but Murphy did take it. I'm kind of interested. What do the cards look like here? This was a split decision. Judge Mark Collette scored the fight the way I did. Rounds 1 and 2 for Santos. Round 3 for Murphy. Vito Palillo scored the 2nd and 3rd for Murphy, and so did Clemens Werner. That feels okay. I don't feel particularly aggrieved in any way on this one. Murphy did outland him in the 2nd and the 3rd round. And the 1st round was very close, actually, in numbers. Santos was able to utilize a lot of, like, pretty nice reactive takedowns to get things done, which is new to me because in the fights I'd seen him take takedowns, obviously. Like, I knew he had a good shot takedown and so on. That's not the question. It was just interesting to see them used as a counter, as a way to break Murphy's response pressure for him. And I think the key here was that Santos just got tired down the stretch. This was a late notice replacement fight for him. I think he slowed down, and the numbers indicate this. That, he had a tremendously active first round, not so active second and third round. And Murphy's power started to, make things happen. His ability to kind of there was a moment in the second round where they got a body lock, and Murphy just absolutely brute muscles him down and takes side control. Murphy is a freak. I do really wonder about the visa issues he has, though, as far as America, and why he has to keep doing the Fight Island fights. Just saying, there are some negative connotations to visa issues in my brain when it comes from coming from the UK to the United States. That does make me ask a lot of questions. I'll probably never get the answers to that. But this was a good fight. You should go back and watch it. It had a little bit of everything. Murphy going to the head, Murphy going to the body, Murphy going to the body, to the legs, pardon me. And Santos doing the same. This is good. It was a very, very good debut for Gabriel Santos. I look forward to seeing what he can do moving forward. I look forward to seeing what Lerone Murphy can do going forward, although Lerone Murphy still is a kind of guy who starts a little bit slow and kind of has to find his way into a fight. He did it here. He's done it a number of other times, but it is a concern that I would like to see that fail. Also, I did like Murphy's corner because when Murphy started going very big to the head, the corner was yelling for body work, which is good. I think more corners should be absolutely reminding their fighter that there is something to hit outside of the head. Outside of the head can be hit, can be done things to. And so I appreciated that. There was a maybe ball shot, maybe not ball shot with a hip shot there, but to Santos, but which Michael Bisping defended horrendously. Bisping was a little bit of a homer on commentary tonight. And that did show. Gotta talk about the matchmaking here. Pull up my featherweight rankings. I would really like to see Murphy get a big, high-profile fight. Like, the fact that that hasn't happened yet actually kind of bugs me a little bit. Where is he? There he is. Loser Bryce Mitchell and Jonathan Pierce, maybe? Loser Barboza versus Billy Quarantillo, maybe? I feel like there are better uses for both those guys, though. Alex Caceres. That has me a little bit interesting. Or Dan Ige. Lots of options, I guess is what I'm saying, for Murphy. For Santos, I would go with maybe something like Joe Anderson Brito. That could be fun. Pat Sabatini, who I talked about earlier, would also be an option. The loser of Bill Algeo, TJ Brown. That could be a thing. The loser of Charles Rodin versus Kron Gracie. Actually, or the winner, honestly. Either way that fight goes. Would be an option. David Onama, like I talked about. So, lots of options for him. He's a very interesting, very fun fighter. I look forward to seeing more from him. Christian Leroy Duncan beat Dushko Todorovic when Todorovic kind of wrenched his knee and the fight came to an end there. Post-fight, they asked, do you think the leg kicks played a role? I kind of doubt it. The injury looked like it was just absolutely just torquing the knee the wrong way. I don't want to take away from Duncan. He stopped the takedown, which I'm really worried about him being able to do long term. So, hey, that's something. He was throwing some nice power low kicks. He was kind of showing the game we expect. But I don't think the win was anything more than a little bit of a freak injury. What do you do with Leroy Duncan next? I'm not going to bother with Dushko because Dushko probably on the shelf. That knee looked very painful. In the Discord, the knee injury experts, aka the people with bad knees, are suspecting a PCL tear. So, yeah. There's not much to really talk about in terms of where he's going next because the answer is probably under the knife. It depends on what I want to do with Leroy Duncan. Do I just want to have him have a showcase fun fight, or do I want to see how his wrestling holds up? Because if I want to see how his wrestling holds up, there's someone like Alyashka Kizriev or even something like the winner of Rodolfo Vieira, Cody Brundrich, or the winner of Zach Cummings versus Ed Herman. But if I just want to showcase him, I just want to have fun with them, which probably is the answer, being honest. You could go with Joe Pyfer, win or lose against Gerald Mershard, essentially. You could go with Dennis Tialunin. That's probably my pick. Let's go with Tialunin as his next opponent, because I think there's something marketable about him. Jake Hadley. Like I talked about this a little bit ago. Jake Hadley hits Gordon with a body shot, and he just falls over, and Hadley finishes him up with the ground and pound. Gordon is exceptionally not durable. That's been unfortunately the case for him since his regional days. It's followed him into the UFC. Hadley trash talked Mokaev afterwards, saying, "I took him out faster. Let's fight." You're not getting the Mokaev fight just because Mokaev is going to be out for a while. So, unfortunately, I cannot honor your wishes, Mr. Hadley. But you could end up fighting someone like Tadger Ulanbekov or David Dvorak or Bruno Silva. Bruno Silva would be fun. That's an option. Jeff Molina, I guess, would be in the mix if, depending on how his whole connections to Kraus go. And it's kind of disgusting what people are doing with Molina about his sexual orientation. It's none of our business. I'll just leave it at that. JoJo Wood came out and looked pretty good against Luana Carolina. This fight was a bit weird because I want to say it was a split. And I don't remotely think it... yeah, it was a split. Oh my God. What rounds did Vito Palito? Palito gave the first and the third to Carolina. Let's have a look. Do the stats make this look remotely correct? I guess they landed apparently the same 6 strikes in the first round. I don't buy that. I don't know how you give them the third round. I don't or her. I have no idea how you give Carolina the third round. She got landed 60-38. And no, Carolina at no point had JoJo appreciably hurt in this fight. Like that's the God's honest truth. In this fight, there was at no point do I believe that there was a moment where she almost won the fight or whatever. She had like 42 seconds of control time total. So like if you're going that angle, it doesn't really work. JoJo worked the game that Carolina historically cannot deal with, which is volume and just like kind of clean combination striking, because Carolina likes to throw big shots. Single individual big shots. It's kind of frustrating because I do feel like if Carolina had gone to an actually good gym at some point, that she has the physicality. She's a bit of a monster. She's fast, she's powerful, she's strong. And all of these things should equal being a pretty reasonable fighter, but there is no structure. Everything is like, all right, I'm going to throw a body kick now. That doesn't lead anywhere unless the person gets like super hurt. Okay, now we're going to throw an overhand right, but there's no thought of where that goes afterwards. And yeah, no, Wood took her apart, in my opinion. I have no idea how this ended up being a split. Jai Herbert versus Ludwig Klein. I scored a draw, and it was a draw. There was a point deduction in the third round. Oh, I should talk about Wood and Carolina's next fight, shouldn't I? Because as much as I do believe we're coming to the end of JoJo Wood, 37 years old, has had a rough run of it lately, and I'm going to say a lot of don't really care about Carolina until she shows me like a decent game. Has she ever fought Meatball Molly McCann? JoJo Wood, Meatball Molly McCann. Is that a fight we can make? Is that a fight that's already happened? I'm just not remembering it. So it feels like a fight that should have happened, but I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it anywhere on the record. So yeah, let's line that up. It's fun. And Luana Carolina. Thinking. Not really coming up with anything, to be honest. Victoria Leonardo? She should be still around. She beat Mandy Boom. So, yeah, let's go with that. It's not really a sexy fight, but hey, it's a fight. Yeah, basically this fight was Herbert won this fight, but he got a point deducted for low blowing Ludwig Klein twice, and in very, very short succession. That this is I have pity in the sense that, as Michael Bisping pointed out, it looked really more like a knee to the hip. It really, really looked like it was not a ball shot that Klein got hit with. But fight IQ moment here. Herbert clinches with Klein, knees him in the nuts. He ends up with a warning from Herb Dean, and then in the second one, he knees him in the nuts again, and the point gets taken. I think it was Herb Dean, anyways. And was it Herb Dean? Was it our boy Herb Dean here that was doing the refereeing of this fight? I don't want to put this on Herb Dean if it's not Herb Dean. Referee. No, Rich Mitchell. Okay. Never mind. Yeah, it was a bit of an erroneous groin shot point deduction, but it's still dumb to throw essentially the same knee back. The first round was basically Herbert working from range. There were some problems, like he got a kick caught by Klein. Klein put him on his back. But I thought Herbert actually did better off his back. He was like working for an arm bar, landing a lot of actually pretty good up kicks. Like the best damage of the fight was Herbert from his back in this first round. And then the second round, I thought Klein took it back. He was doing a much better job of pressuring. He started finding his range in round 2, mixing in kicks of his own, which he had not really done in round 1. And, utilizing the wall install, which is boring, but it keeps things fresh. It keeps things going. And he had 2 good elbows on breaks from clinches. And then, like I said, in the third round, I thought Klein won it again. But how much of that was, the fact that, Klein got, kneed the balls. Anyways, draw. It's fine. Is that even enough, though, to save Herbert? Because it really seems like the UFC has no interest in Jai Herbert. They signed him to what probably, because of the Cage Warrior title deal, is decent money. And they have really not done much with him. But hey, I would love to see him fight like a Rafael Alves or an Alexander Hernandez. There's a lot of good fights. Like, I hope he sticks around because there's a lot of stuff you can do with him. That would be fine. And for Ludovic Klein, as much as I'm probably never going to take him seriously, I just think he's too small. He is a guy that he's fun. He's fun. He's fun and he finds solutions to stuff. And I don't have any objections to him like hanging around and taking fights with like, I don't know, Uros Medic, Otman Azaitar. If he's still around, Joaquin Silva, Neto BJJ, he would be so much fun. So yeah, there's a lot of options on the table there. And the day opened up with a big win for Veronica Hardy Macedo. She beat Juliana Miller here. This was just a fight. It was terrible by Miller. So bad. Miller, pathologically aggressive, going into the clinch and so on, trying to get things done. But her takedowns were all incredibly high risk, falling over and ending up on bottom. It was bad. It was bad. Like she's aggressive off her back too. Like she'll go for triangles and arm bars and leg locks. She was doing all of that here. But my God, is she terrible. And the fact that she apparently decided to relocate from Team Hurricane, awesome, to train with Sick Jitsu. And one of my absolute least favorite coaches on the planet, Rick Little, is... it's Rick or Rich Little. Sick Jitsu. What is your coach's name? I'm going to their Facebook page. Oh, that didn't even have it. About. No, really. You are not going to put your coaches on your Facebook page. That's terrible. And they don't have it on Tapology either. My Lord. This gym. Market yourself, damn it. I don't even have it. Oh, my Lord. They don't appear to have a website. Wow. Coach R. Little. There we go. Is terrible. He's the guy who's like, yeah, leg kicks don't hurt. Body shots don't hurt. Seems to have no idea. Like, he's gotten incredibly lucky that Michael Chiesa and Juliana Pena, and to a lesser extent Sam Sicilia, put his gym on the map. And Lyle Beerbaum put his gym on the map by being like freaks. Like just psychos with like athletic ability. And it's given him this idea that it's given him this reputation as a coach. And he does not have it. So welcome back, Veronica Hardy. Great performance. Juliana Miller, please go back to the gym you were at before or find another one. Because this ain't gonna work. I mean, I guess you could argue that like she wants to turn into like Michael Chiesa to a certain degree. So like it kind of works. Hey, like let's go to the place. But like Michael Chiesa was made Michael Chiesa because he's Michael Chiesa. It has nothing to do with the coaching there. Next fights for these two. Because Miller will still be around even though it was terrible. Because she's a tough winner. They won't let go of her that easily. I can't seem to find them in. Oh, there she is. Veronica Hardy, all the way down at 76. Wow, below Jamie Lynn Horth. Come on. The fight with Hannah Goldie has like some bizarre ideas for me, if I'm being honest. Teresa Bleda is another example. Also, how the heck is Brogan Walker up at 57th? Wow. I don't even know. For Miller, I don't know. I think if the UFC really wants Miller to be a thing, they need to actually legitimately step in and be like, we need to move you to another gym. Because it's that bad. It's that bad. She has the right mentality to be a fighter. She has the right mentality to go with the Casey O'Neill path of horrendously aggressive weaponizing of pace and volume. But I think she needs a good a stable training environment to do that. Anyways, there you go. That's the fights. And I hope you enjoyed. I'll be back on Thursday with the Chito Vera versus Corey Sandhagen card. Let's just have a quick look at that and see if there's anything really cool. Also, there's a one fight night coming up too. So let's have a look at that. One fight, anything interesting? Sohee Ham. I like Sohee Ham. I like Izuki Hirata. Be down for that. That's the big one. I might break that fight down as my like one fight to bring to bear. And yeah, Chito Vera versus Corey Sandhagen. The Holly Holm versus Yana Santos Denise Kunitskaya co-main event is kind of garbage. And going down this card, I actually really don't like it. Nate Landwehr, Austin Lingo, Andrea Lee versus Macy Barber, Alex Perez versus Manel Kape. I've never been able to get behind Alex Perez. Chiji Nkwanji versus Albert Duraev. Pineda Lutz, I like that fight. Lucas Alexander versus Steven Peterson, I like that fight. But this is not good. I understand that there's a couple of falling apart fights here, like Sean Brady versus Michelle Pereira, but I don't know. I'm not wowed. All right. I will see you guys when I break down that fight card and a little bit of one.